Hey, this is Flo, and welcome back to the second part of the 30-day app challenge from Code with Chris. In this part, we will start implementing the general design from this mockup. And I have already created a new Xcode project called Weather Challenge, but I have not changed anything in here yet. So I would say let's start the general design, and we can then add icons and colors and sizing and so on later. So as I see it, this UI has several layers, so I would call this a background layer, and maybe this pop-up box and everything else a foreground layer. So that implies to me that we have a Z stack here. And for the background, let's just use a color.blue for now. And what we actually want is to ignore the safe areas. As you can see, the color should span into the corners of the device. So for that, we just say ignore safe area, just like that. And you can see the color fills the whole screen. So this will basically be our background layer. Let's add a comment here. And then we can also work on a foreground layer. Okay, so the foreground will be a V stack with the text up here, then these weather conditions in the middle, then some information, and a forecast for the next 7 days. Okay, so let's start by creating a V-stack with a centered alignment, so you actually don't need to specify the alignment if you want it to be centered. And let's also give this some spacing. Let's see, there's a lot of spacing here, so I'd say maybe like 32. But not between these two, so these two could be another V-stack themselves. With some text here and some smaller text below. Let's see. Yeah, the top one is the city, the bottom one should be the time. Okay, so let's call this one New York maybe, and then 12:45 p.m. as they, or 17:45 p.m. Yeah, that's basically how they had it. Let's also add a spacer here for now, just so it's all clamped to the top. And now the thing is, we have ignored the safe area for the whole Z stack. So what we can try out now is removing this and only adding it to the color. So now you can see that the color still ignores the safe area, the edges here, but the text is not inside of the safe area, which is basically what we want. So then the city should be a bit larger and the time should be a bit smaller. So let's give this a font of title maybe. And let's also give this a font weight of, let's say, semi-bold. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that looks a bit better now. Should be around the sizing that they used. And let's make the other font a tiny bit smaller. So let's say maybe like caption. Yeah, that's very small. Let's do like title 2 or something like that, or title 3. Yeah, I think that should work out. Now you will also notice these are both black. Okay, so we can keep that. They have a very light background and some shadows around all of these rounded rectangle elements, as you can see. So let's actually change our color.blue to color.purple and give it a lower opacity, so it's a bit lighter. Maybe even lower, something like this. Yeah, this looks kind of similar to how they have it here. And then let's start by maybe let's start with this middle box. Okay, so this will be a rounded rectangle, basically with a corner radius of some sort. So let's maybe say 40. Okay, yeah, that could actually be it. This definitely needs some padding with the horizontal edges. And maybe even more. Maybe let's say let's specify like 25 here, 25 pixels. Yeah, that looks good. And actually, while the shape is a rounded rectangle, this should only be the background. So what this should actually be is an H stack, which as a background has a rounded rectangle. So let's change this to an H stack, and let's give this H stack the background modifier and paste in the rounded rectangle here. And we should also indent this a little bit, so then we can fill the rounded rectangle with color.white is what they used, I believe. Yes, exactly. And now let's fill the H stack with some content. So there's always an icon, then a value, and then a description below. So let's use system images for now, just so we have some icons there, and then we can actually use the weather icons that I showed you in the first episode later on. So there is an image. Actually, this should be a V stack with an image on top, then a text with, let's say, I don't know, 42%, and then a text saying precipitation, something like that. So what we notice, first of all, we definitely need some padding inside of our H stack. So let's give this a padding before we apply the background. Yeah, this looks a lot better already. And also, let's give this a frame so that it always spans the whole width of the screen. We can do this by applying the max width frame with dot infinity. And as you can see, even though we only use a tiny portion of the screen, it spans a lot more. Okay, so let's see, this precipitation text should be a lot smaller. So let's give this a font of footnote maybe. Yeah, looks good. Let's also see it's definitely gray and not black, so a foreground color of gray. Maybe that's even too dark. Let's see now. It should be good. Okay. And the icon, yeah, it's fine, but the text here should be bold. So let's give this a font weight of bold. Okay, yeah, looks good. So now that we have this set of icon, value, and description, we can actually extract this to a subview. What I'm going to do is copy this VStack, and let's actually do it proper. Let's create a new file, a SwiftUI view, and let's call it, I don't know, value description. Let's call it a stack actually. Okay. Let's just put this in here for now, and then we can pass on values for this later on, just so we have it separated for now. So now we can call here a value description stack. And what this allows us to do now is to actually put in multiple of these, also add some spacing of like 10, I would say. If we now resume the canvas, we can see that we have multiple of these value stacks. So they, for example, have 4 here. So let's add a 4th one. Let's see, does it actually fit? Yes, it fits perfectly. Okay, fine. That's great. So we already have this middle box, but we definitely need some more padding to the top and to the bottom. So maybe just increase the padding overall to 25 again. Let's see. Okay, that's a bit too much on the sides. So what I'm gonna do is add some vertical padding. Vertical of, let's say, 9 or 8. Okay, that looks a lot better. So we already have this part. Then let's go about one of these boxes. They're a bit more tricky because this label at the top is actually overlapping the box and overlapping it to the outside. So let's start once again. This is basically a V stack of an image, a temperature, and then some description. So let's create a V stack with an image. Once again, I'm just using system images here. I don't know, is there a cloud image maybe? Yeah. Okay, perfect. We should definitely make this resizable and give it a frame with, yeah, actually, let's say 120, and 120, and we can remove the alignment because center is the default alignment, so we don't really need that. Now this image looks a bit squished because it's not a perfect square, but later on we will just have to adapt this to the images that we will use, as this is just a placeholder. Then below there was this text for, I believe it was temperature, yeah. So let's just say 23 degrees, and let's add another text with, what did I write here? Moon, cloud, fast wind, okay, whatever. So basically the description of the weather as text. I believe we can basically copy all of these modifiers. For now, we will refactor this later. But what this gives us, yeah, exactly, we once again have this rounded rectangle as the background, but we actually don't want it to be that wide, so we will just remove this frame modifier, and that way it fits perfectly. Yeah, it looks good. Now this 23 degrees needs to be much bigger, so font.system with a size of, let's say, maybe something like 64. Yeah, that actually looks pretty good. But if you notice, this rounded rectangle should have a purple background. So we can just replace this fill modifier here with purple. And then what we need to do is also change the foreground color, or actually let's yeah, let's keep it like this. We can make the real colors later, but this needs a foreground color of .white. Okay, looks good. Now the last thing that we need is this label here at the top. For that, I believe I will just use an overlay just after the background modifier. So let's give this an overlay of a text. What is the text? It's the date. Okay, so Sunday, March 8, 2021. Oops, missing the S here. And now what you can do with these overlays is specify a second argument called alignment. What I'm going to do is align this to the top. Okay. Then I will give this text a little bit of padding, like 5 pixels or so. And also give it a background of rounded rectangle with a corner radius of maybe 10. And also fill this rounded rectangle with white, as they have it in design. .fill color .white. Okay. This looks pretty good already. Let's see. Okay, so their corner radius is higher. So let's make this 40 again, actually. Yeah, looks good. And their padding is also more, so let's maybe try some standard padding. No, that's way too much. So let's say like 10. Okay, and then also what I want to do is move this a bit up. So one easy way to do this is adding an offset of y, and let's say maybe like -20. That's probably too much, or let's see. Yeah, that's a bit too much. So let's try -16. Okay, -10. Okay, I think this looks good. Yeah, if you compare it, it's decently similar. Maybe this purple rectangle actually needs some more horizontal padding itself. So let's also add some more horizontal padding. Maybe also 8, and don't forget the dot here. Okay, so as you can see now we have the vertical and horizontal padding of 8. We can just remove both of these. And the default padding is 16, so 16 plus 8 would be 24. And now there we have it. Okay, so that's this part done. Next up, the bottom part, which is once again a V-stack. At the top it has an H-stack of 2 text elements, so one text element, another text element, and let's put a spacer in between so they're both pushed to the sides. As you can see, it's today and next 7 days. So today and next 7 days, and then it has like a a chevron. So there's actually an SF symbol for that. It's called chevron.right, I believe. Let's see. Yeah, exactly. And now let's give this H stack a lot of horizontal padding. Let's give it like 50 or something like that. I don't believe it actually took the 50 here. Yeah, for some reason the preview is not updating. So let's maybe build this. And now we can resume the preview. Yeah, that's maybe a bit much. Let's actually do the same padding as this white box has. So this has 16 plus 25, so 41. Yeah, let's try it like this. And then also both of these texts should be bold. So does the font weight modifier work here? No, but what we can do is actually use font.body.bold, and this gives the same effect as using the font weight modifier. Just a quick tip. Okay, let's also add some spacing to this VStack of 16 once again. And the last thing that we're gonna do now is add a horizontal scroll view of, basically this top box but smaller, which has a time at the top, an icon, and a temperature below. So what we're gonna add here is a scroll view of axis.horizontal, and inside of that I'm gonna add an H stack. Okay, let's see. So since it's pretty similar, we can just copy this top VStack here, but we can remove some parts. Let's put it in here. We can remove the overlay because we don't need that label at the top. We also don't need the image to be as large, so maybe let's say like 50 here, and also 50 in the height. Also, we want to move one text label above the image, which says the time. So maybe something like this. It also says AM there, okay. And the temperature should be much smaller, but it should have a semi-bold weight, I would say. Let's see. Okay, I think that's pretty close to it. What we can do now, once again, is grab this VStack, copy it, and create another SwiftUI view. Let's call this hourly box, and let's just paste everything in here. Okay, then we can close both of these again, remove all of this code, and just put in a couple of hourly boxes. Then let's resume the preview and let's see how it looks. If you hit play, you can actually scroll horizontally here. Okay, so let's compare. The only thing that we didn't yet add is the ability to scroll here from side to side, which I suppose would change location. And we also don't have the background yet, and the colors are also off, but the general design is pretty close. So the spacing here is a bit too much. So maybe let's go into hourly box and reduce this horizontal, or remove actually this horizontal padding. And now the spacing is a lot less. So let's give this H stack some spacing by itself of maybe like 10. Yeah, that looks a lot better already. And let's also give this first hourly box a padding to the leading edge, so it's not clamped here to the edge of the screen, but that would you know, cramp the content. So instead what we're going to do is add a spacer with a frame modifier of width 16, and what that's going to do is push everything to the side a bit, just like they had it here. Okay, so I would say this is it for this episode. The general, very general design is implemented now, and what we're going to do in the next one is add the colors, add the gradients, maybe start to fill with some icons, and then after that we can start implementing the API and fetching some weather data to display. So that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed the episode and see you in the next one. Bye.